With the ending of the fall and the beginning of spring, a lot of trees, as we've talked about, have been dropping their leaves. These are an acacia that has been dropping the leaves. These are a nice fine leaflet, fantastic for mulch. But I want to get it off the driveway because it will mulch the driveway, but also then create more soil. So we do get issues of soil developing on here over the years. This is an old driveway, and we've had areas where mortar has cracked over time, disappeared, and then that is then made even worse by some of the weeds that will come up. This is in the sunflower family, and these ones are very difficult to pull after a certain period of time because it doesn't even really give you anything that you can grab at, and it forms a taproot that finds its way through these little spaces in the cracks on the driveway, creating much more problems. So initially, as a means to try and reduce the weeds on here, I can sweep up the leaves. That can be used as mulch, and then that provides an open space through which I can try and treat these weeds here. As you see, as I pull it, it just doesn't give me anything to grab onto, but the rootstock is now left in there, and that will reshoot and grow some more. But we will try and deal with that through some hot water treatment. Boiling water can be quite effective at trying to get rid of some of these rootstocks that are much more difficult to get out of these kind of cracks. The idea that boiling water, as much as if I was to pour this on myself, would scald and kill the soil, or the cells, that the water touches, we're using the same kind of concept with something like these rootstocks. So just pour a little bit of water on there. You're not going to see it immediately. It takes a bit of time. But ideally, as long as this water is boiling or near boiling, it should do the exact same thing to this crown of the plant as it would to us, in terms of essentially killing those cells, hopefully killing the root down far enough that it actually kills the whole plant altogether. Now this one I've tried to pull and it didn't easily come. I'm not going to be able to get that. It's still stuck in there. You don't have to pull off the leaves in doing so. You can still just treat the plants while they are still green, and what you would most likely notice then over the next several days is that this top growth will die off, the leaves will go brown, and hopefully that will then also have killed the root that's just at the base there. This one I might be able to, well, got a bit of it, and you can see that that goes down pretty far and becomes much more difficult to pull, especially when you don't have much space to get around and anchor the plant with your fingers. Again, I've pulled this one, but it broke off mostly in the soil. I can just add a bit more water in there to hopefully kill off that bit of root that has remained in the crack. So here we have a number of other difficult to deal with weeds at times. This is a type of Indigofera. It forms these kind of sprawling masses and forms this massive root in the center that is very, very difficult. Even if I tried to grab all of these stalks to pull, they will most likely just break off, just like that. And it leaves the root that will then reshoot. Now, it is important as well to remove as much of the seed as possible, because these will just form many more little plantlets as you're going around. This is an older plant. Ideally, what you want to be doing is treating young plants. But again, we'll just pour some of that hot water on here. Using the kettle is just for demonstration purposes today. Usually I would boil a fairly large drum of water, in which case then I have plenty of hot water to treat all of these little types of plants. You know, we've got another type of oxalis here with the little yellow flowers, but very similar to the Indigofera, it cannot easily be pulled out effectively. So then we can just pour water on the crown. These might need repeated treatments because these are well-established plants growing in these cracks, but with persistence we can actually get rid of them as much as possible. It is a yearly thing, unfortunately, as these cracks have developed. So it is very dry at this time of year. The soil will not allow these roots to come out very easily because of their propensity to find little cracks and crevices in the main crack, which then they hold themselves into place. If you want to make it somewhat easier, you can wet the area a day before with cold water or so, and then try and hand pull, which is always effective. However, at this time of year, when it's so dry, that is going to be a little bit more on the difficult side. But if you want to be dealing with these as much as possible, then trying this hot water method is a means of trying to get rid of these weeds. Not all garden plants are necessarily where you want them to grow. We've got a little Madagascar periwinkle here, Catharanthus roseus. It has seeded itself into the drive from other areas, and again, if this is left, it'll grow into a big plant. Oh, but this one did come up when I pulled it. There was a lot more for me to grab onto it, and I was able to get this root out of the crack. So this will not regrow from here, but for all of these others, like this little Euphorbia hirta, these are much more difficult because of their propensity to spread across the brick and make them much more difficult to grab hold of anything to pull out. This kind of surface, very much like exposed soil, favors certain weeds like the Euphorbia or even this Tridax over here, which likes to crawl across the surface, cover ground, all growing from a central taproot, which no matter what you try and do, usually will not come out nicely. But we loosen that up a little bit, just pour the remainder of our hot water onto that crown. We can check over the next few days just to see how that's going and repeat treatment if need be.